Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. Hey, once again, we've made it to Friday, and that means we are in for a treat. It's FOMO Friday. Yes, every Friday here on the podcast, we love to bring you the stories of the week because we don't want you to have that fear of missing out on the stories and the things that are happening around you. And particularly if you're not listening to propaganda media, you want to know what's going on, and we want to bring you those things. Today, we've got a few pretty big things that are happening. There's quite a bit happening in the world, and from a series of articles from the Daily Wire comes this very first one. Not a pleasant story, but 2 children were killed and at least 17 people were wounded when a shooter opened fire at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis on Wednesday morning. The gunman, who was in his early 20s, is dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, according to the Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara. During a press conference after the shooting, O'Hara said that the 2 children were killed were ages 8 and 10, unfortunately. The shooter fired through church windows during school mass, striking children and worshipers both. The students were attending mass at the Catholic church next to the school when the shooter opened fire. Now, the shooter was identified, and normally our policy is not to identify who these mass shooters are, but it is relevant in this case, so I am going to make an exception here. The shooter was identified as Robin Westman, according to multiple reports, and in 2020, Westman reportedly, and this is why it's relevant, Westman reportedly changed his name from Robert to Robin because he, quote, identifies as a woman and wants her name to reflect that identification, unquote. This according to Minnesota government documents shared online by Washington Free Beacon editor Peter Hassan. Now, since Westman was a minor at the time of the name change, his mother had to sign the application. So more, I'm sure, will come out about that later. Now, the shooter was carrying a rifle, a shotgun, and pistol, and killed himself after firing dozens of rounds at innocent children. I've heard reports of over 100 casings that were found at the scene. According to O'Hara, police believe the shooter fired all 3 weapons, and the shooter barricaded the students and staff in the church by placing a wooden plank against some of the side doors in an attempt to prevent them from fleeing, O'Hara said. The police chief added that 17 other people were wounded in the shootings, 14 of whom were children. 1 adult and 6 children are in critical condition, according to the Hennepin County Medical Center, and President Donald Trump said that he has been briefed on the shooting. The FBI quickly responded. This is a quote. The FBI quickly responded, and they are on the scene. Trump wrote this on Truth Social. The White House will continue to monitor this terrible situation, and please join me in praying for everyone involved. Now, both Trump and J.D. Vance, Vice President, and a few others did call for prayer and were mocked by many of the Democratic leaders for asking for prayer. We're not going to get much into that today. I think we're going to do probably a podcast this coming week on the situation, and we may get into more of that then. Now, the Richfield Police Department, which neighbors Minneapolis, said that police are responding to an active shooter call. Officers are reporting 20 victims. A man dressed in all black and armed with a rifle was reported at the scene. EMS has requested a mass casualty response, and fire crews are bringing in additional resources. That's what they put out. Quote, I've been briefed on a shooting at the Annunciation Catholic School and will continue to provide updates as we get more information. This is what Tim Walz, he's of course the Minnesota governor, former candidate for vice president under Kamala Harris. And he posted on X, quote, "I'm praying for all kids and teachers whose first week of school was marred by the horrific violence," unquote. Kind of interesting that he said that, because then, like I say, there was a lot of mockery about prayers after that by the Democratic side. But police said the shooting was first reported at 8:27 a.m. local time, and more than 65 units responded. The church and school are located in Minneapolis. Annunciation Catholic School serves students from kindergarten through 8th grade, and Wednesday marked the school's third day of the new school year. Like I say, we'll probably talk a little more about this coming up here shortly. We just don't have all the time today to get into it. Just an unfortunate situation that unfortunately we've seen this before. This is a movie we've watched before, and we need to get more into what's going on here. It has nothing to do with gun control, and because Minnesota honestly has some of the more strict. Minneapolis in particular has some of the most restrictive gun control laws. They have red flag laws and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, we'll talk more about that here in the near future. Well, some of the biggest, well, probably the biggest for some stories of the week, and came out of an engagement. Now, as you know, I'm not a celebrity guy, but I do know who these two are, surprisingly enough. And that was that Taylor Swift got engaged this week, and I guess that was a big deal to Travis Kelce, who's an NFL football player. Know him because he's been on my fantasy league teams a few times. But anyway, I actually read a couple of opinion pieces on this. My first knee jerk is, well, who cares, right? Again, I'm not a celebrity guy, but then I read a couple of opinion pieces, and I thought, you know what, I agree with what they have to say here, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to bring these to you. And the first opinion piece comes from Ben Shapiro, and this is what he says. He says, "It's rare that we have news so big, so incredibly important, that it trumps not only all the other news of the day, but all the other news of the year, the decade, the century, nay, perhaps the millennium. Yes, it's finally happened. The most important event of our lifetime. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are engaged." I know. I too am flabbergasted, shocked. I'm also ecstatic. Yesterday was a magical day in the history of the United States and perhaps all of Western civilization. Listen, I will admit when I'm wrong, he says. 2 years ago, when these two lovebirds began their relationship, I thought this was just another one of Taylor Swift's relationships that would end with a breakup album in which she sang like a little 17-year-old about how sad she was that she'd been rejected. But don't worry, she don't need no man type thing, right? But she does need a man, and that man is Travis Kelce. I have to say, unironically, I think it's great. I hope they have a wonderful marriage. I hope they have lots of kids. I hope she sings lots of songs about being married and having kids, and all those songs are better than her normal songs. That's what I hope for her, because I think that would be a very good thing for the West, for America, for young women particularly, who have been taught for generations that a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, and that romance is somehow a giveaway to patriarchal institutions. A core component of human happiness has always been finding a member of the opposite sex, marrying them, having babies with said member of the opposite sex, and enjoying a long-lasting relationship built on love and mutual commitment. And that's a very good thing. According to Variety, quote, The couple sharing the big news on Instagram with a carousel of photos and the caption, quote, "Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married," unquote. Forget the whole idea that Taylor Swift would be a great English teacher or not. The pictures are quite charming and quite normal. And I'm here for it. The normie revolution is happening. Sure, she's a billionaire and he's a multi-millionaire athlete. And that is a very, very large ring in those pictures. That is some serious jewelry. And they can afford it. But you know what? Good for them. It's charming and it is good. I hope that many other people take advantage of the situation to get married and follow in their footsteps and then have long-lasting, decades-long marriages filled with children and grandchildren. This is culturally significant because over the course of the last few decades, there has been a rebellion against normalcy, against the very idea that men and women ought to get married to one another. Instead, the idea that was pervade was that any decisions that men and women made with regard to relationships were, well, equally praiseworthy and equally useful and equally likely to lead to happiness. It's not true. Statistically, the reason people are celebrating this marriage is that singledom is not ideal. It is not, in fact, a wonderful, happy experience usually. That doesn't mean you have to be miserable if you're single. What it does mean is that inspiring to be married, to be part of a happy marriage, it's a wonderful thing, and it's an inspiration that is natural to the human heart. And that is why people are happy for Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. The idea that a traditional romance between the high school cheerleader and the high school quarterback is a platonic idea in America is because that is the basis of the forwarding of civilization. Marriage is the fundamental bedrock institution of all successful civilization. And that's good. This is tactically a cultural rejection of the idea that the actual ideal is non-marriage, that the actual ideal is just prancing around like Madonna in your 70s, being a faded pop star and trying to convince everyone that you are, super duper happy waking up drunk in the mornings by yourself in a 5-star hotel. These images of Swift and Kelce are great. They're wonderful. They're good for the world. Perhaps we'll get a Taylor Swift baby boom. That would be an excellent development for Western civilization. What's going to be fascinating is to see what comes next for Taylor Swift. Authentically, musically, aesthetically. We made fun of her album cover a while back, he says, on the program. And he said that a very kind of over-sexualized album cover is what they were making fun of, and pointed out that she's been getting more and more sexual on her album covers with each one. And it's going to be hard to do that when you're married and you presumably go on to have kids. It won't have quite the same sort of resonance. So what's going to happen to Taylor Swift? Well, Taylor Swift is amazingly a very good marketing type of personality herself. But pop music is a teenager's medium. It is a medium made for teenage girls and people who have a prolonged adolescence in their mid-20s. Pop music is based on certain tropes: being brokenhearted about the latest breakup, being messed up about your latest breakup, or something else about your latest breakup. All pop music is basically rooted in sexual lust in terms of its lyrics and or emotional problems. That's what pop music is about, which is why people age out of it. The minute that women stop being sexually alluring is very difficult for them to be successful in the pop world. Women age out of that in the pop world pretty quickly. Katy Perry, who is who's 5 years older than Swift, is the butt of enormous mockery online for her latest tour. She's considered to be too old for the game. I would not be shocked, he says, if Taylor Swift's next album moves back toward country music. It'll be fascinating to watch. But again, my great hope here is that an entire generation of young people, particularly young women, who have been told by the feminist movement and by pop stars like Taylor Swift that relationships are bound to fail, and thus they should act with teenage angst, start to mature along with Taylor Swift. That would be amazing. I really liked that. I think it's spot on, and I think this one too. This is the second piece. It's by Gates Garcia, who is the host of the YouTube show and podcast We the People. And they say that in our household, we lean more Carrie Underwood than Taylor Swift. It's nothing personal, though I'll admit it sometimes feels personal when celebrities use their platforms not only to sing, but also to lecture half the country. Taylor Swift has been explicit in her support of President Biden and left-leaning causes. Travis Kelce, for his part, was the face of a national campaign telling Americans to roll up their sleeves and get the COVID shot. So let's be clear from the outset. Their politics aren't mine, he says, and their cultural influence often points in the opposite direction of what I want for my family and this country. And yet, here we are, celebrating their engagement. And celebrating is exactly the right word, because while my ideological Venn diagram doesn't perfectly overlap with Swifty Nation or its new hubby, there is one place where the circles meet in the middle: the enduring institution of marriage. Two people at the absolute height of their careers, perhaps the most famous singer and the greatest tight end to ever wear an NFL uniform, have chosen to stop, look at each other in the eye, and say, this is the person I want to commit my life to. And that is worth applauding. Swift commands more than 280 million followers on Instagram alone. Kelce has over 7 million. Combine their reach and you have a cultural juggernaut, bigger than most cable networks. Young people study their lives like scripture. So when two such figures choose marriage, not another situationship, not cohabitation without vows, not endless serial dating, but marriage, they are broadcasting a message stronger than any new single or touchdown dance. Love is worth binding. Commitment is worth celebrating. That matters in a culture where marriage is often delayed, derided, or dismissed altogether. Divorce rates may be down, but so too are marriage rates, with many young people opting out of family life altogether. Celebrities more often than not model instability rather than stability. And Swift and Kelce choose marriage. They're choosing marriage, and it provides an image of permanence at a time when our culture too often glorifies in impertinence. So make no mistake, this isn't an argument that either of them has suddenly found their inner Ronald Reagan. I'm not suggesting Taylor Swift is about to record a country ballad praising the Second Amendment, or that Travis Kelce will do the Trump dance after his next touchdown. Now, their politics are what they are, but we conservatives don't need to agree. Don't need to agree with someone on everything to recognize when they've taken a step toward timeless truth. Marriage is older than the United States. It perpetuates kings. It predates constitutions and pop art and pop charts even. It is the bedrock of civilization. Even when cultural elites mock or minimize it, they cannot erase the reality when a man and a woman bind themselves together in marriage. They are creating the most time-tested foundation for family and community that the world has ever known. That's why this engagement between two people we wouldn't consider political allies is so instructive. It reminds us that truth has a stubborn way of showing up in places we least expect it. It reminds us that marriage is attractive even to those who don't share our worldview. And it reminds us that the conservatives should not be shy in celebrating when culture, however briefly, affirms what we've known all along. Taylor Swift has sung about breakups for nearly 2 decades. Now she's signaling something far more meaningful than another heartbreak anthem. Travis Kelce has been praised for toughness on the field. Now he's showing a different kind of courage off of it, the courage to commit. For young people watching, and let's be honest, tens of millions of them are, this story has the potential to shift the narrative. Instead of just keep swiping, the message becomes choose one and choose forever. There's a deep point here for conservatives. Too often we, and they say myself included, reduce culture to a scorecard of us versus them. Who endorsed Biden? Who took a knee? Who did the Bud Light ad? That matters, yes. Ideas have consequences, and politics shape the future, but not everything has to be reduced to the partisan trenches. Sometimes culture reminds us that God's design still resonates even when people don't recognize it as his design. Marriage is one of those reminders. So, no, I don't expect Taylor Swift to headline, CPAC anytime soon. And no, I don't expect Travis Kelce to start quoting C.S. Lewis in the locker room. But I do expect that their engagement will make some young people pause and reconsider the script they've been fed. That career comes first, that love is temporary, that vows are outdated. Seeing the most famous woman on the planet say yes to marriage and seeing one of the NFL's biggest stars embrace the same choice undercuts the lie that commitment is uncool. We don't have to be Swifties to be happy for them. We don't have to endorse their political, their politics to endorse their vows. In fact, it is precisely because we disagree with them on so much that celebrating this moment becomes even more powerful. It shows that conservatives can recognize and affirm the good, even in those who don't see the world as we do. And maybe, just maybe, Swift and Kelce will discover that the overlap between their world and ours is bigger than they think. For now, let's give them this. Congratulations! Marriage is still worth singing about. Again, I thought both of those opinion pieces very good. I agreed with them wholeheartedly, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it too. But before we end today, there is a couple other things we need to get to. Yes, those were two really big stories of the week, and they needed to be shared and they needed to be talked about. But there were a few other things going on, a lot going on this week. In fact, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser admitted on Wednesday that crime in the district has plummeted since Donald Trump and his federal takeover happened. Bowser, a Democrat touted the cratering crime rates and said that she greatly appreciates the resources that have been surged into the city since Trump's early in August emergency declaration. Now, she signaled that she would like to continue to work with the federal government to police the city after Trump's emergency declaration times out at the end of the 30 days. Bowser went on to tout the area where she suggested Trump's federal takeover has made the most progress was carjackings. She said the most significant thing that we are highlighting today is the area of crime that was most troubling for us in 2023. She said carjackings during the time that Trump has marshaled federal law enforcement to DC. Carjackings in the district have declined 87% from the same period of time last year, is what the mayor said. Since Trump's federal takeover, more than 1,000 people have been arrested. Hundreds of those arrested are illegal immigrants, and some have been identified as MS-13 or other gang members. Law enforcement has seized over 100 firearms and cleared away dozens of homeless encampments. And Trump has surged federal resources into the nation's capital to make the city safe and more beautiful as well. So again, this has been an update on a story that we brought you earlier, where the mayor of Washington, D.C. was basically saying, no, hey, this is terrible. Donald Trump is sending in the military, and all this kind of stuff. And now, just a few weeks later, all of a sudden, oh, wow, look at this. It's really a good thing. Thank you. It's kind of funny, law and order does tend to work, I guess. That might be the takeaway we have here. Another story, though, is that the Democrats and media personalities scrambled to white knight the former national security advisor, John Bolton. Remember him? Especially when news broke that the FBI had raided his home and office, but they may soon regret doing so, as more information has begun to surface about that investigation. Democrats and media were quick to defend Bolton, who served as national security advisor during President Donald Trump's first term, before falling out of favor, claiming that the raid was proof positive that Trump was using the Justice Department to exact revenge on his political enemies. But according to a report published by the New York Times on Wednesday, the investigation into Bolton actually picked up steam while former President Joe Biden was in office, due to information uncovered by the U.S. intelligence agency about Bolton's handling of classified information. Even the New York Times raised the question of whether Trump was using the raids to punish detractors, but also pointed out that Bolton may be in some serious trouble here. According to the report, the investigation began just prior to the publication of Bolton's book, The Room Where It Happened. That's the name of the book. When the first Trump administration attempted to stop its publication, the book went to print anyway, and the investigation effectively stalled until the intelligence community uncovered the emails. The investigation has thus far revealed that Bolton had emailed several people who were assisting him in compiling the information that he would later use to write his book, and had included information he appeared to have obtained from classified documents to which he had access while, of course, serving in the Trump administration. As the New York Times reported, the raids were conducted in an effort to determine whether Bolton had in his possession records of the same information that was uncovered by the intelligence community. 2 federal judges signed off on those warrants, by the way. So, yeah, it looks like this is kind of very easily another one of those Hillary Clinton type things, where he had a lot of, and even Joe Biden had a lot of classified information that he shouldn't have, and he was releasing it. In fact, it looks like he even was emailing on an unsecure server a lot of this classified information. And it looks like now that he may even be in trouble for the fact that other countries have gotten a hold of some of this information because of that. So anyway, wanted to end on, I know it's been kind of a little bit of a heavy day, but I wanted to conclude with kind of a fun little story here. And this comes from Ben Hooper from UPI. He said that sports card company Topps is releasing a collectible card featuring an unlikely baseball star. It's a squirrel that ran out onto the field during a New York Yankees game against the Boston Red Sox. Yeah, if you Google the video, it's really cute. The squirrel briefly stopped play during last Friday's game when it ran out onto the field at Yankee Stadium during the top of the fourth inning and approached Yankees pitcher Max Fried on the mound. He literally got onto the mound, pitching mound there, and then ran around a little while, making his way over to the edge. He found a peanut, trying to find a way out. I mean, it was quite cute. And guess what? Now he's got his own baseball card. So anyway, kind of a fun one there. Love to hear from you on it. Of course, you can always do that, uncommonsensepodcast.com. Please go to YouTube, like and share. That always helps. And thank you for listening.
This podcast is a production of Morganite